right, and I think we're live. So it's a go after about a month absence, I believe. Someone, friend mentioned this the other day that this was the longest gap, or today rather. Um, this was the longest gap in between live streams, and I think it might be. I didn't check. It previously was the one before that. So even Nate's surprised. Hence the googly eye emoji. Is that the regular? No, you're not first. Nate Nate hovers around every single YouTube, particularly the ones he moderates. He always seems to pop in at an opportune moment, so he's usually going to be the first. Hey Matthew, hey Alejandro, and Tom, even though you're not first today. Yeah, it has been a month. This is let me see. This is my Babylon Bee hoodie. Fake news. Fake news you can trust, which I've had for a year or two. Maybe closer to 2 years. They probably sell a lot more merchandise now than they did when I purchased this, because they're a lot more popular in spite of the continuous the continuous attempts to ban them from virtually every social media platform. It's kind of ironic, but it's not surprising that the more they tried to throw them off of social media sites and prevent them from going viral, the more viral they become. It is True News than CNN. I don't know. Was that the first stream of the year? It might have been. It might have been a recap of what was happening. Um, um, I'm not sure. I have to go back. Was that the last stream or the one before that? That sounds like the first one I did this year. Yeah, it's been kind of sporadic, hence the title of this stream. Yeah, I was probably talking about some of the things that I I had missed in the intervening months. It, it's it's kind of funny. CNN, ever since President Trump retired, ever since he stepped down and the inaugurated new president, CNN's ratings have cratered, and it's kind of amusing to watch these press organs try to find a rationalization for why no one wants to watch them anymore. And the default conclusion is that it's still Trump's fault. they're basically they're they're admitting either implicitly or explicitly the fact that the only reason people watched CNN for the past 4 or 5 months was because of Donald Trump, and now the fact that he's been shunted off, he's kind of been siloed from all of these mainstream news networks and social media sites, has resulted in no one watching the dying uh watching this lurching dying behemoth of legacy media. It's kind of funny, but it's probably something you could have anticipated. um the Crater News Network. Yeah, and they're still trotting out Anthony Fauci, um, Anthony Fauci to try to that. I mean, regardless of who who you thought should have been president or been elected president, I think one of the worst aspects of Biden winning is that we're going to have another, perhaps not 4 years, but at least another 2 years of Anthony Fauci and have his face plastered across every single newspaper and cable news network. And Anthony Fauci, I can't even do it's embarrassing. I'm a native Brooklynite and I can't even do a halfway decent Fauci impersonation, but you're basically going to be flooded with his visage for the next, at a minimum, 2 years. And if Trump had been reelected, he would have been fired almost immediately. So that's just getting down to brass tacks. That was definitely a loss for the country. The Ravi Zacharias, that's a good question. The Ravi Zacharias revelations are kind of interesting. I read the report. The report itself is really disturbing, but I give credit to RZIM for actually posting the full report. Although they did, this is something they were, the second audit or the second investigation was something that they were prompted to do after initially denying or denying the initial reports. Apparently he was accused of harassing this woman from Canada who went public with her allegations. And it was only after those had been dismissed later on, after his death, that all of these other revelations of sexual assault and misconduct, financial misfeasance, all of this other criminal, illegal, and immoral behavior was revealed. So, in a way, the people and there've been other channels that have talked about this. The fact that the people who were in charge of RZIM were in concrete ways complicit. The fact that they didn't really, although apparently there were people inside the organization who are ostracized for criticizing him and pushing back and pushing for more accountability, but they were marginalized within the actual ministry. And I think the RZIM Canada and the UK have already severed ties, and I've talked about this with some people, and I think they're probably either, the only solution now is probably going to be to dissolve the ministry after it was exposed, because even the people who were standing up to him, unfortunately they might be tainted by association, but the ministry itself has a completely tarnished reputation. So even if they change the name, it's still going to be saddled with this legacy. So I think ultimately they're going to have to dissolve the ministry. And there have been other apologists and a few Christian YouTubers who've suggested this. I think Todd Friel might have alluded to this. The fact that what they should do is give the resources. I mean, I could imagine that they have a lot of civil liability now. The women who were um, um, the women who were involved with Ravi Zacharias, if he did anything illegal in his relationships with them, I imagine they would uh, sue RZIM. So they might have to. They're probably going to have to. They're probably going to be liable for some civil settlements, and I think they already did settle for a large sum with the initial the woman who made the initial accusations, the one from Canada. I don't recall her name, but they're probably going to have to do that with other people involved in this. They might also have to pay. They might also have to be. They might also have to be held liable for donors. There might be donors who sue the ministry. But one of the good suggestions, it might have been Todd Friel, and I'm not sure, but I think he suggested that they should direct that their enormous endowment, and it's a very wealthy ministry, but they should direct that, assuming that they could liquidate it, and after whatever money has been paid to the people who were victims, they should give it to ministries that actually are, legitimate Christian ministries that are financially and morally accountable, that have a solid internal structure. And there were some other Christian apologists and pastors, I think, who brought this up, the fact that the way his ministry was structured almost lent itself to this sort of abuse, where you have where you don't really have these type of parachurches or ministries like that, which aren't they really should be structured along the lines of a biblical church in terms of the hierarchy. In other words, there should be a plurality of elders and accountability. It shouldn't be structured in a sense like it shouldn't be structured in the sense of for example, the papacy, where you have one main authority, and he's not really, he has some there's some notional checks, but it's really just one person, and they're sort of immune from self-criticism within that body. So it really should be, you have a plurality of elders and people able, if you have a leader who is preaching bad doctrine or is engaging in immoral activities, or God forbid is a reprobate, you have people who can challenge that leader and hold him to account, or even expel him, take over from him. So that will probably be one of the solutions. Like a lot of these types of ministries are very focused, are very are centered around personalities, like particularly one personality, and I don't think that's how you really structure a ministry. You need people to be held accountable within. So, like even the Apostle Paul, for example, when he was sent out on missions, on the first real missions of the church from Antioch, he had people who he was accountable to. I mean, beyond God himself, there were there were other elders in the church that he that could oversee his behavior and see if he was doing something that was untoward, or that he was straying. So I think that's what you really need in these types of ministries, where you have evangelists and going out and preaching in different cities and different countries. They need some sort of oversight, and they need elders looking over them, and other men in the church who can hold them to account. I mean, it says, when Paul lists the qualifications for a pastor or deacon, I mean, one of the expectations is that these people's lives, particularly pastors, are open to examination. Like, you can't you can't have a pastor, and I think this applies to other elders as well. You can't have someone like that who's in a position of authority, whose life isn't really an open book. That doesn't mean that they're forced to disclose their private, every family matter, but they like certain things like financial or moral accountability, and how they behave with the public and with other men and women in the church. This is something that should be open to scrutiny and inspection. Yeah, who oversees the overseer? That's one of the things. I mean, I think that's one of the things. Ultimately, I think it's God, but you should also have something institutionally, a way to protect the church and protect the people the church is reaching out to, and protect the way the gospel is presented. And that's why in really solid churches you have a plurality of elders, and you have a group of men who are able to kind of serve as a check. Men who are steeped in scripture and are walking the walk, and they can serve as they can kind of serve as a check on what each other's doing, to make sure that they really are upholding the word of God, that they're not straying into these, lasciviousness and unsound doctrine and heresy, and that they have a real it wasn't a church, it was an apologetics ministry. But the thing is, it was the way it operated. It was kind of like a mega, I don't know how he described it, but like a mega corporation. And Ravi Zacharias was sort of the CEO. But in a church, and there are certain things, like I think there's an organization, it's evangelical. I don't. The Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability, which sort of oversees at least some of the fiscal parts of these organizations. But there really is, I mean, the way that it was described, especially after all of these revelations were disclosed, the way it was described, it didn't sound like there was a lot of internal accountability in terms of like the people who were who would have been able to confront or challenge Ravi Zacharias. It seemed like they did not have a lot of they didn't have a lot of will to do that, and the ones that did were marginalized. Oh, thanks, Animal, with 3 exclamation points. I gotta. It's funny. I've had this YouTube channel for so long. I didn't start posting until uploading videos until 3.5 years ago, but I've had it for years, and I'm always curious about the people with these interesting screen names, because I just use my actual name from the beginning because I didn't expect to ever actually start uploading videos. So that's I mean, and I usually do try to use my real name on these social media sites and my real image, but I know a lot of people that use handles or online pseudonyms for stuff like YouTube, especially if they're uploading videos about controversial subjects. I didn't watch the David Wood video. I watched a few other videos about that, but I know it was very long. It was like 46 minutes. It'll be it'll be fun when David starts to live stream again. I don't know if he's holding back because he has other responsibilities. He's just busy, or if he's like slowly transitioning off of YouTube. I don't, because I know they've already clocked him for a couple of supposed violations that aren't really violations. So he might just be trying to wean himself off of YouTube. I'm not sure. I know my friend Spinnin Remixes is still, as far as I know, he's still uploading videos, and those are fantastic, especially for those of you who like novel musical alterations. He does remixes of some of the goofier Islamic apologists, among other things. Although he actually did a video using it was basically William Lane Craig outlining the gospel, and he mixed that up, which is worth watching. Floss Meister or Floss Meister? Floss. Sounds like that. It sounds like Floss Meister. It sounds like one of those characters from one of those CBS claymation Christmas specials. Heat Miser. Yeah, my siblings are like that. One of them even had the recording of the Heat Miser, Code Miser song played during a Christmas. I think it was a Christmas Eve party or something. I forget. But it actually is pretty. I think they've done remixes of that too. Burgermeister, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. Burgermeister, Meister Burger. I think that was that the same cartoon? I think it was A Year Without Christmas. I don't remember the exact I don't remember the exact name, but it was something like the let me see. Well, The Year Without a Santa? No. The Year Without a Santa Claus was the Heat Miser thing. I don't know. The Burgermeister thing was kind of funny because I think that was written right after World War II, and they have this German villain. Although I haven't seen any of these in years. I don't really watch network TV. Not that I don't even know if they still run these things on network TV. I know the Charlie Brown Christmas special. They've had that on ABC for decades. Scrubs was a funny show. That was another that was another good NBC sitcom. Although eventually, I think they canceled it and then they moved it to ABC, and then like half of the cast left. I'm not sure. Okay. Oh yeah. All right. So Heatmiser was A Year Without a Santa Claus, and Burgermeister was from Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Yeah, because I know they always ran those two, those and the one with Jimmy Durante as Frosty the Snowman, but that was a cartoon, I think. Those the other ones were like clay, I think, like puppets or claymation. And Rudolph. Yeah, those yeah, those were the three they usually ran. Yeah, the last season of Scrubs was terrible. I think they did the last season of Community. Chevy Chase quit or was fired. I don't remember which, but they did the last season of Community online on some website, streaming website, and apparently it was a total disaster. But yeah, that was a bit of a tangent. Anyway, that was those are my thoughts on Burgermeister and classic CBS Christmas specials. Oh, hi Tim. Forgot to say hi earlier. Um, and other more consequential topics. Yeah, it's funny if you read the Quran. If you actually sit down and read the Quran, there all of most of the surahs have him repeating the accusations that his pagan critics made of him. And the funny thing is, his critics actually sound more persuasive than the person ostensibly not writing, but the person who through whose prism the Quran is transmitted. So you have supposedly Muhammad is conveying something that was given to him by Allah in this book, and his declarations, or Allah's declarations filtered through him, sound stupider and more incoherent and less persuasive ultimately than those of the people who are criticizing. So like you have a surah in the Quran where the pagans are saying, Muhammad is a moron, and he's just repeating old wives' tales and like Arabic folklore, which is true if you go back and cross-reference these things that are in the Quran. It is like Arabic folklore. It's pseudepigrapha and Talmudic passages that are just misinterpreted and bowdlerized and repeated in the Quran. So basically what they're saying is correct. But the funny thing is, like, you read them and they actually sound more, if you look at it objectively, if you don't come into the experience with any preconceptions and you just read it straight, like, you'll come to the conclusion that the people who are saying Muhammad is an idiot and is simply repeating old folklore or wives' tales, that those people are correct. like you can't. I mean, if you're not a Muslim and you just read the Quran, you'll say, "Yeah, I can," which is ironic because it's supposed to be, the way it's framed is, this is the word of an Almighty God, and the person who's writing it sounds like a moron. Yeah, I mean, that's not even the worst of it. It confuses Mary with Miriam. It inserts Haman, the character in the Book of Esther. It inserts him into the Mosaic chronology, like the part of the Quran where Muhammad is talking about the Pharaoh, and he doesn't specify he used the he doesn't. I mean, it's so ridiculous. Christian Prince went over this once, but like he basically, but he takes a character from the Book of Esther and inserts him into Egypt and makes him one of Pharaoh's henchmen, basically. Like, there are so many dumb things. He turns Lot or Lut as into a prophet. He as an aside, that's one of the things that the Quran does not understand. Like, Muhammad has a completely skewed understanding of what a prophet is, and the whole idea of prophethood or the office of a prophet, he doesn't understand what that is. So any semi-significant historical figure in the biblical narrative is referred to as a prophet. Hence, you have someone like Lot being a prophet because he was an important figure in Genesis, especially in relation to Abraham. So all of these people are prophets. And one of the interesting things is that in one of the later surahs of the Quran, it says that Muhammad's prophethood will be proven on Judgment Day. So Muhammad doesn't even understand that a prophet is recognized as a prophet while he is alive. I mean, Jeremiah's prophecies came true within his lifetime. A prophet, if you have to wait until everyone on earth is dead and has been resurrected in order to demonstrate your prophethood, then you're not a prophet. Yeah, it says the ancient Egyptians practiced crucifixion, which they didn't. They had a practice where they would mar. I think the Egyptians had this practice where they would mar people's wrists or arms for, like, they would, but they didn't crucify people. This was something the Romans, I think the Macedonians did, but it's most associated with the Romans because the Romans were the ones, in addition to crucifying Jews who rebelled against them and non-Roman citizens, they also, of course, crucified Jesus Christ. So it's crucifixion is primarily identified with the Romans. And yeah, that's the thing about the Quran. Like, you read the Quran and it reads like someone who was literally who was having a psychotic break. There's no coherent. Like, I mean, you have some people, particularly these people who are rabidly anti-Bible and want to dispute the claims of the Bible. They say, oh, someone like Paul had a psychotic episode, or he had a hallucination, and that's why he believed. If you can't, this is someone who, after his encounter with the risen Christ, continued to serve him for the rest of his life, which was the subsequent 3 decades. He wrote 14, I believe it's 14 epistles, demonstrating these are the most lucid. It's the most lucid exposition of the deity of Christ and the nature of the body of Christ, and things like the second coming of Christ and the rapture. It's the most lucid exposition of these topics that you'll find, even if you're not convinced that his arguments are correct, that Jesus is the Son of God. You can't argue that these are the writings of someone who's insane or who's lost control of his senses. I mean, the fact someone who's a schizophrenic or who's apt to hallucinate is not able to conduct a ministry, like to go around Asia Minor and Greece and go to Rome eventually. It's not able to go to all of these places and establish churches and communicate effectively with hundreds of people. But if you read the Quran, it actually reads like something that could have been written. I mean, it wasn't written by Muhammad, but like the people that compiled the Quran, it's just, and that's one of the hallmarks of a man-made book. You can tell you can see the human fingerprints on it, and in this case, the fact that you have all of these conflicting doctrines and internal contradictions, and you can tell this was just multiple people who were pretending that they had or were under the delusion that they had some sort of relationship with this God of theirs, Allah. And the fact that Muhammad repeatedly asserts that he's not crazy is itself an indication that he's crazy, because the people that don't, if someone's not insane, if they're of a sound mind, they don't have to keep reasserting that. I mean, if they live in an open society, if it's not like the Soviet Union where they just declare people mentally ill because that person is a dissident or speaking up against the government. But like, if you're in a normal country, and you're not insane, you don't have to write an entire book describing why you're not insane. That's usually an indication that you are at least maybe not insane, but you're a few eggs short of a carton. But anyway, those are my thoughts. Thanks everyone. Tim, Richard, Matthew, Alejandro, and GW, of course, Irene, and Shori Yukio. I'm probably mispronouncing that. And Nate, of course. Nate and Tom. Anyway, thank you all for coming, and hopefully I'll see you all soon, and I'll try to keep that promise. Bye. Bye, Tower Time. Bye, everyone.